Hello moneymakers, welcome to today's Top 5 Market Updates. We start today in the USA where Fed Chairman Jerome Powell is set to testify in Congress at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is set to testify Tuesday in Congress a day before the release of the central bank's minutes of its last policy meeting earlier this month when it decided to hold interest rates steady near zero. Investors and lawmakers will be parsing Powell's words for any change in his outlook for the recovery as states and cities around the country have to enforce new restrictions because of spiking cases of coronavirus. Next up, U.S. will release its June CB Consumer Confidence Index report at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Conference Board CB Consumer Confidence Index is expected to rise from 86.6 in May 2020 to 91.6 in June. While lockdown measures eased, protests over the unlawful killing of George Floyd swept across the country. For the U.S. economy, a bounce back in consumer confidence and spending is a must. However, last week's pause by a number of U.S. states in reopening may limit the effects of any positive numbers. Our next update is, the UK releases its GDP report for the first quarter of 2020. The Office for National Statistics (ONS) said that UK GDP contracted by 2.2% between January and the end of March 2020. UK GDP year-on-year in quarter one was -1.7%, which was below the market consensus of -1.6%. GDP quarter-on-quarter in quarter one was also below the consensus of -2% at -2.2%. The final tally was worse than an earlier estimate, published in May, that said GDP contracted by 2%. The 2% fall already marked the sharpest quarterly contraction since the 2008 financial crisis. Next up, France releases its consumer spending month-over-month report after relaxation in lockdown. French consumer spending came out at 36.6% in May, which was higher than the market consensus of 30.0% and -19.1% in April 2020. The French government began lifting restrictions on May 11 after the country spent nearly 2 months under one of the strictest lockdowns in Europe. Despite the rebound in May, consumer spending remained down 7.2% from pre-crisis levels in February. Our final update is, Eurozone released its consumer price index year-on-year for the month of June. According to Eurostat's flash reading of Eurozone CPI report, the annual reading came in at +0.3% in June, meeting expectations of +0.1% and +0.1% in May. The headline inflation had hit the lowest since June 2016 last month due to the coronavirus pandemic led to reduced fuel and energy demand. The Eurozone inflation report comes a day after the German prelim CPI data was released, which showed that the German consumer price inflation accelerated by 0.8% in June and moved a tad closer to the European Central Bank's (ECB) rate target of just under 2% for the Eurozone as a whole. Meanwhile, the core CPI figures steadied at +0.8% in the reported month when compared to +0.8% expectations and +0.9% in May. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for regular updates. Only on Capital Street FX.